I started feeding the city 12 years ago when I decided that it would be a really good idea to start my own chocolate van. And I was going to buy an old ice cream van on eBay and do it up and fill it with all kinds of chocolate treats, from brownies to sundaes to chocolate milkshakes to chocolate ice creams to hot chocolate, truffles, frozen chocolate dipped bananas, and iced chocolate martini shots under the counter. And I was so taken with this idea that I decided to buy the van unseen. It was up in Inverness, and I didn't have time to go and look at it before the sale was ending. So I bought The Idiot's Guide to Starting My Own Business, had a quick flick through, flew up to Inverness with a friend of mine and did a 4-day road trip back to London with this van, which I'd never driven a van before, so it was a bit hairy coming home. And suddenly I've got this van, and it's terrifying. And I started fly pitching around London, which wasn't very successful because I got threatened to have my knees capped quite a few times by Mr. Whippy. And I then went to Portobello, the wrong end, under the Westway, where everybody just wanted hot dogs and cups of tea all day, and I could help them with the cups of tea, but not with the hot dogs. And then I went to Brick Lane, where I found my people, loads of happy, hungover, hungry for chocolate people, just coming in their droves to sample all the delights from my van. I then branched out to festivals, to weddings, to parties, to bar mitzvahs, all sorts of things. And I realised after doing this for a while that I was doing more than just flogging a few brownies out of the back of my van. I was creating a connector for people. I would have people come up to the van and ask me all sorts of questions. They want to tell me their life story. They want to talk about their favourite chocolate bars. Some people just wanted to sit on the stoop and leaf through my chocolate recipe books and just hang out. And I don't think that's something that people would have just felt as comfortable doing if there hadn't been that food to connect them. So they were coming and they were buying the hot chocolate, and then they were chatting and they were hanging out. And I really loved that connection that it gave me. It was something that I never had in an office job. It made me feel connected to London in a way that was really, really meaningful and addictive. I also clocked onto the informal trader community. I haven't actually done any of my slides. That's my van. That's how old it is, because Fresh and Wild doesn't exist anymore. I think my generator blew up that day as well. So I clocked onto the informal trader community, and I met all these amazing characters with heart and soul and swashbuckling, go-getting ways about them. The guy with the trolley is Angus, who is just like the magic man of the kerb, frankly. If anyone of you have had the pleasure of meeting him and trying his food, it's really special. He does stuff with a knife and a tiny, tiny little chopping board that would just blow your mind, and he produces this Kolkata street snack that tastes so wonderful and fills you up in a way that goes so much beyond the food that you're eating. And this is Nikki from Healthy Yummy. She's one of the founders of Fabric. And she decided she was going to turn her pizzazz and love of life to food. And she serves the most incredible seasonal British food. She's making scallops there that she serves in a shell with celeriac puree and bacon bits and sea vegetables. And it's just wonderful. And I met so many other characters like this. And I thought, why don't we just get together and get organised and make something bigger than just the sum of our parts? Let's amplify all of this magic. Let's create strength in numbers. Let's make ourselves more visible. Let's create more opportunities. And let's make the food on the streets better by putting all of this talent together and really agglomerating it all. So I launched Eat Street, which was a street food collective. It was kind of a hobby that I did in my kitchen, really. And in between scooping ice cream, when I was at markets, I'd go scouting around for talent. And it was just something kind of pretty informal. I can't really even remember what we were doing. Like, we would get together with people like Yanni from the Meat Wagon, and Nikki, and Angus, and Nick from Hamon Hamon, and all these different characters. And we'd do things like go down by the towpath in Hackney, which is now a space that there's a development on. You can't go there anymore. We'd go to the South Bank, we'd go down to Peckham. We were all over the place, but it was all pretty kind of fly-by-night. It was in 2011 that Argent, the developers at King's Cross, I don't know what way it is because I'm completely disorientated, but like very near to here, got in touch and they said they'd like Eat Street to come to King's Boulevard, which was a completely new street at the time, and enliven the space and create a new narrative for it, whilst the whole place was a complete building site. So that was brilliant. That was really a really great move for us, and it made me realise that this could be more than just a hobby that I did in my kitchen. It could be a business. So Kerb was what was launched as a result of this in 2012, and it was probably 20 traders, something like that, and we rolled along. We did a few pitches here and there. And I think we did like 2 days a week, sort of 6 traders. And it was really exciting times. It was a time when Twitter was hot as hell. So this is, 2011, 2012. Everyone's crazy about Twitter. Street food's kind of becoming a thing. There's a frisson of excitement. People are talking about it. And the whole London dining scene was starting to informalise in really exciting ways. And we kind of were part of that wave. Today, we have got about 70 traders that we work with. We have gone from the few pitches a couple of times a week at King's Cross to over 7,500 pitches all year across our sites, which is 5 sites across London. We've got an expanding private events section, and we've got an expanding public events section. And we are looking at this year feeding 1.5 million dishes to Londoners across our markets. That's over 4,000 dishes served by Kerb traders every single day of the year in London. So it's really grown. What at the same time has happened is that it's like street food has become almost a parody, and it's talked about as if it's this really cool thing, this hot thing, and you get street food concept restaurants, which I always find a bit weird. You get street food recipes, street food style recipes in magazines. You get street food dishes in supermarket shelves. And you've got a load of investors just clamoring to find the hot new street food trader. Who's going to be the next Bao? Who's going to be the next Bleecker Burger? Who's going to be the next Pizza Pilgrims? Everyone's really, really excited about it. But I think the thing that I'm the most excited about with street food, and which continues to intrigue me and make me want to be part of this scene, is something that's a bit less intangible, something that you can't see and you can't quantify. You can't put it in a spreadsheet, it's got no rateable value, and you can't download it. And I think the best way of explaining what all of this intangible stuff is the reason that I called Kerb in the first place. So I see the Kerb as a really, really vital part of city life and all of the stuff that it can produce. I see the Kerb as a platform. It's a platform for businesses with very little to make a go of it. It's the lowest barrier to entry profession that there is anywhere in the world. Anyone can have a go at it as long as you've got a gas burner and maybe a bit of food and a bit of way about you to kind of make something happen. And I think it's really, really important that London continues to provide this stable platform, as stable as it possibly can be, because this is a really uncertain business. I mean, anyone that wants to have a go at making a business work from a tent in the London weather needs all the help that they can get. So it's really about creating this platform, and we really believe, and a lot of markets in London as well, believe in this whole need to bring in raw talent constantly. We're always looking for new ideas and new people who are innovating, and it's kind of feeding the city in ways that's untrammeled. That people can experiment and try ideas without feeling like they've got to answer to their financial backers or they've got to fill it in on a spreadsheet or anything, and that's really exciting. And as long as we're allowing spaces and creating these platforms for these fresh ideas to come through, then London's going to continue to have a little bit of something about it that's interesting, and it's really, really important. So the other thing that I think the Kerb brings is a stage. I see it as a stage. I see the trader as the main character in their own personal play, their van or their gazebo as their set, and their signage and their equipment and all their different bits and bobs as their props. I also see it as an opportunity for people to bring their stories to that stage. And so you're eating the food, but where the food comes from is really exciting to me. It's all the journeys that the food has taken across continents and across years. So this is Barbecue Dreams. It's Lee and Sinead. Sinead's from Galway, and Lee is half Filipino. He grew up in the Philippines. And they're making this Filipino deliciousness that if you haven't tried it, you've got to go and get involved. But his parents met in Hong Kong years ago, and then they moved to the Philippines, and he grew up learning how to make chicken adobo and all of these delicious Filipino dishes. And what you get when you come to one of these traders is you don't know it, you can't see it, but you're tasting the journeys of what they're bringing to the table, and that's really exciting. And when you put all of that together on the kerb, and especially when you look at all the steel and glass that's kind of building up around you all the time, it's cool, it's immovable, it's rigid, and then you've got all this theatre going on. It's really exciting. It makes London just that little bit more kind of a meaningful human place. And don't forget, it's not just about the traders selling to you. The customers are just as important in this production. I think of it as a co-production of space, where everyone belongs there. You're looking in the eyes of the people that have served you the food, and you're seeing who's making you your lunch. I never get that when I get a laminated sandwich from a chain sandwich shop, and I think it's really, it's powerful. It makes you feel something, and you exchange stories, and when the wind picks up, you might have to grab the legs of the gazebo and stop it from flying away or something, but you're involved, it's participatory, and I think as long as London is providing ways for us to participate in ways that we weren't expecting, which in ways that are unmediated and unchoreographed, it makes you feel a little bit more human, and I think that's really important. The kerb's also a leveller, so everyone belongs there and no one owns it. So it creates this just balance. You're not in somebody else's shop or someone else's restaurant under someone else's manners. You're all on the same level. And that's brilliant. You don't need any kind of certification to join the street food industry, although you need to get it once you've started, because otherwise you might get in trouble. But you don't need, as a customer, it doesn't matter who you are or where you're from, everybody's welcome. Like, this is the public, the street is democracy's greatest arena. This is where we all belong, and this is where we should all feel like we belong without having to kind of be governed by somebody else's rules. So it's a great leveller, and it's not a spectator sport. Everyone should get involved with it. June 24th last year, woke up to the terrible news that Britain has voted to leave the EU. And that night, we've got an event on in King's Cross at Granary Square, very close to here. And we're wondering, who the hell is going to want to come out tonight? This is just not a time for partying. This is a disaster. And we were all kind of kicked in the guts about the news. And what happened was amazing. So many people poured into that square. No tickets needed. Nothing but just come along, buy some food, buy something to drink, kick off your heels to all that back porch music that we got from Maverick Festival. And it was this amazing balm that I think everyone just really, really needed that night. I was at the brisket stall eating some brisket from Howard's Meat Company, and this woman from the Ukraine came along looking really devastated. She'd been living in London for 20 years. And she was just absolutely gutted about what was going on. And she said, can I not be here anymore? What am I going to do? And I didn't really know what to say to her other than, do you want half of my sandwich? And she was just delighted. And she felt it was almost like this kind of symbolic, Britain loves you, here, have half of my sandwich. And we had a hug, and off she went. And she was delighted, and I was delighted. And I look back on, I'll never see that woman again. But I look back on that day as starting off with this awful, awful feeling, and then ending off with this amazing feeling of kind of hope that was really powerful, and that was given to me by the streets under this sky that, people have been dancing and eating and drinking under for hundreds and hundreds of years. And I think it's really important to remember that, the kind of traditions and the roots of street food served on the street in the city for so long. So I think that everyone should go to markets, and you should go and soak it up and soak up that atmosphere, because there's an energy and a lifeblood that you participate in by going to street markets, and you help to feed it and energize it and become part of something that is about so much more than just eating the food. It nourishes you, and by extension, it nourishes the city. Thank you.